Hi, my name is Autumn Payne. I'm a visual journalist, and I'm here today with Stephen Bryant Walker. He's a therapist at Middle Way Health and also a Buddhist teacher. So he has a wonderful perspective that combines both Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. And we are going to be talking about topics relating to mental health. This is our 16th interview.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and it's our hope that these conversations will be of benefit to people. So thank you for joining us again for the
Thanks,
16th
Autumn.
interview. Yeah. So today I wanted to talk about something that you had mentioned a couple months ago after our conversation about anxiety, and that is the topic of counterphobia. Now, I had never heard of counterphobia before,
Mm.
and it's very fascinating. So, first of all, what is counterphobia? Is it bad? And if someone has counterphobic tendencies, what should they do about it?
Um, I'm not an expert in counterphobia, but generally, phobia means you're going to avoid something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, agoraphobic, you're going to avoid going out into crowds or open spaces or, like that, right? All kinds of
Mm-hmm.
phobias. So, counterphobia generally is, when I use it, I mean, someone is doing something that normally, well, not normally, but they actually want to avoid, but they're doing it to overcome the fear of doing it.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
usually that is something that's considered a good thing in our American narrative. Like, face your fears, right? Uh, if you have a fear of something, you should face it, and that is a good thing. So, how does
um,
counterphobia relate to that viewpoint?
well, I usually, yeah, it could be reckless or it could be, maybe positive, like you mentioned, like, okay, I'm afraid of going up in the elevator, so I'm going to do some relaxation breathing and I'm going to do some positive self talk and I'm going to go up in the elevator. Um, but generally, when I'm using counterphobic, is someone's a little bit acting out or unconscious that they're trying to overcome a fear uh, and they don't know it actually.
So, what would be an
And
example
risk.
of that?
People that take, really a lot of physical risks, you know, motorcycles jumping over buses, um, like uh, daredevil kind of risk things. But people are
Mm-hmm.
also counterphobic that um, they they usually say, "I know this person is bad for me," or "I know this, uh, you know, but I think I'm going to give it a try." So they there's that challenge. You see the adrenaline of there's an initial idea, a sane idea that maybe they need to stay away from somebody or some activity, but um, they challenge themselves to prove something to themselves that they can handle it instead
Mm-hmm.
of just going, maybe there's some intelligence here where I want to stay away.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't like the idea that they're afraid or that there is something scary or that, they should be staying away. So they, kind of override that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
Now,
maybe
I
other therapists would use the term counterphobic another way, but that's how I speak of it.
okay. I
Mm,
I have I have a lot of friends who are skydivers and base jumpers on here.
right.
And I have a long history in the adventure sports and a lot of friends and family members that do the same thing. And it never occurred to me that, this idea of doing these things might mentally be a negative. Like, does it? is it a negative thing to pursue like sports that have bodily harm involved necessarily, or is there a way in which it can be a positive thing?
Well, with anything, the important question to ask is, am I okay with the consequences? And am I okay when things don't turn out exactly the way I want them to? What's going to be my repair plan, or am I resilient to a certain consequence? So a lot of times, particularly with counterphobic activities, there's this it's got to work out thing. So there's like some magical thinking that actually, if you have some, safety net, or you have some alternative way of doing something, that will kind of jinx it. So
Mm-hmm.
you're almost kind of like, well, it's got to work, and um, like that. And people go into business ventures and relationships, and so it's not just like sporting things or other things. People create a situation that's counterphobic when I'm going to do this, and then I got to be a success. So they
Mm-hmm.
paint themselves in a corner because they're worried about being cornered. They're worried about things not working out. They're worried about that. So they create situations where then they go, well, I'll do it because I have to.
Mm-hmm.
So that, because they don't really want to, but they have to create a pressure cooker situation.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd like to avoid doing the activity. So they create a pressure cooker situation to push through, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a really interesting
Hmm.
concept that it never occurred to me. And I think most skydivers that I know would agree that they are okay with the consequences to some degree, otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
but people end up in the hospital or worse, and it can be very hard to swallow when it actually does occur. Um, So it's just interesting. I'm thinking like the mental space that you're in is probably very important when you're undertaking these activities. Um, and whether it's a positive or negative thing overall would probably be individual to the person and their inner world. Would you agree with that?
Um, there are probably some, in general, I would. There might be just some things that, no matter what, are not indicated to be good counterphobic strategies. Like,
Like running
but
out into traffic or something like that?
yeah, like I'm afraid of this, so I'm afraid of getting stuck up on the top of the mountain, so I'm gonna go up the mountain with sneakers on. So um, that kind of truth or dare style.
Mm.
So I want to notice that if I really don't want to do something, or trying to avoid something, there could be sanity there. You see?
Oh, so
Okay.
that's the key there.
Yeah, there could. So avoidance. A lot of times people say, "Oh, no matter what, I don't want to be an avoider. I want to." I want to like be present. I want to get involved. I don't want to stand back. And um, so we also want to notice that there could be a lot of intelligence there.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Whereas maybe an anxious, avoidant maybe, uh, I don't wanna say not intelligent, but you're avoiding an activity that's probably relatively safe, like an elevator, for example. And what are you giving up when you decide not to take elevators?
Um, you know, current counterphobic for me would be people that aren't being vaccinated.
Hmm.
So they're they're saying, okay, well, I don't want to get vaccinated because I'm worried about what the vaccine's going to do, but actually, um, they're afraid the of COVID, but their way of dealing with it is being counterphobic. They're going
Mhm.
to pretend they can be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very yeah, so we're seeing a lot of unvaccinated folks, unfortunately, meeting the fate of falling ill with COVID or worse, as a result, which
Yeah.
is what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah. Most people aren't going to say, yeah, I want to get sick, right?
Mm-mm.
So, they say, well, I want to avoid getting sick. So instead of, doing something that is medically indicated, they're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So counterphobic for me doesn't mean like you intentionally get sick,
Yeah,
but you're avoiding it in a funny way.
avoiding it in a funny way. Yeah, and intelligence is very important. Sounds like
Mhm.
what what is what makes sense out of the situation, and then how are you reacting to what makes sense as far as what your activities should be, and then the
Right,
emotions come in. Like, I
right.
don't want to be afraid, I don't want to be uh, uh or even jumping out of airplanes. I don't want to be afraid of jumping out of an airplane. I want to be a brave person, therefore I'm going to jump out of an airplane lots and lots of times.
It,
um,
yeah, it could be, since you bring up jumping out of airplanes, we could be, we're just afraid of our own fear. So
uh,
we don't have to be literally, I'm going to jump out of airplanes because I'm afraid of height or landing incorrectly. We could be afraid of something else.
oh,
So,
absolutely. I
so
this
we could say, I'm afraid of starting a new business. So to prove that I'm not really afraid, I'm going to jump out of an airplane.
yeah.
So it shifts a little bit. It's kind of, you know, transferred over there. So there's other psychological names for that, but it's still kind of, I'm going to do something risky to prove I'm not afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just speaking with an amazing skydiver friend of mine who does incredible things in the air, canopy pilot and whatnot. And he talked about his fears, and I was like, you don't seem like you're afraid of anything. What are you afraid of? And he said, well, I'm afraid of a rejection.
Okay. Yeah, most people are, we
Yeah.
don't want to be rejected by a group or by a person that we want to belong to. So
Yeah.
that's heavy duty. Yeah.
I was like, larger than life, incredibly talented, afraid of rejection. I mean, that's so human. We're all like, I guess none of us are really larger than life, eh?
No, we're all about the same size.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So there's a lot we could discuss about, it has to do with fear and what fear is. And maybe if I could seed the next conversation, we can talk about fear, because these are fearful times, but most people
Hmm.
don't want to really look at fear and what it is, and you know how we deal with it. So I'd be
Yes,
interested in that.
let's do that. That
Yeah.
sounds good. So,
Okay.
interview number 17 in 2 weeks.
That's
More
it.
on fear.
Yeah. Ah,
All right. Well, thank you so much
yeah. Thank
for
you.
joining
Thanks,
us,
Autumn.
and we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.